Welcome back to Season 5 of OT Coaching Confidential. I'm so pleased you guys are here. I'm Alyce, a paediatric OT and founder of the OT Coach Australia, where I support therapists just like you every day. And this podcast is a little different to most. Each episode is a real mentoring conversation with an occupational therapist somewhere in Australia, navigating their own professional growth. Sometimes that growth is clinical, sometimes it's business, leadership, supervision, or another area of professional practice. And often, it's all of those things. Across this season, we'll be talking openly about the realities of working as an OT, things like stepping into or refining a private practice, moving into a leadership or supervisory role, growing or stabilizing a business, employing others, and just continuing to develop as a wonderful therapist. These are the conversations I have every week behind the scenes, and they're shared here so you can recognize parts of your own experience, feel less alone in the questions you're holding, and take something practical away that you can hopefully apply in your own work. So, our first episode, I'm joined by Elsa, an experienced OT who has recently stepped into her own private practice. We talk openly about that unexpected overwhelm, the cognitive load of now doing everything for yourself, and that decision fatigue that hits you when you're first figuring all of these things out, even if you've planned so carefully and do really know what you need to do. This conversation explores what it really takes to turn experience and good intentions into a sustainable private practice. Now let's get started. Okay, welcome. Thank you, Elsa. Thanks so much for joining us today. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, I'm an occupational therapist for the past, I keep getting confused. I think it's 15 or maybe coming up to 16 years.
Oh, that is confusing, isn't it? I'm 50. I'm turning 15 years in practice this year, but I have been thinking 15 for about 3 years, so I'm with you.
It's been a long journey. I think when I started off OT, it was mainly because, a friend's sister did it. And I was like, oh, that sounds like, an easy job to be.
Oh, what a fallacy that was.
And I was like, okay, I'll give that a go. I actually feel like over the past years, that's when, after graduating is when I actually understood what it was to be an OT. And initially, my first 4 years were in a hospital sector, and they were abroad. I moved into Australia a few years, coming up to 13 years now. And
Cool.
That's when I actually started working in the community. And in the community was OC rehab, and then I've been in the NDIS space too. And that's been my journey for the past almost coming up to 2 decades as an OT. Yeah.
So a bit of a mix of clinical scope, so OC rehab, community-based stuff. Were you doing adults, peds, or just everything?
It was a mix of everything, but I've always gravitated more for adolescents and adults, more in terms of equipment, prescription, home modifications, and skills building. That's where I've kind of found it's very structured, I guess, and it kind of helps with me knowing, okay, this is what's expected. There's always going to be something that comes up where, okay, that's a complexity, but that's a complexity that interests me, gets my brain working.
And that I can figure out in a very nice black and white manner.
Yes. So that's what I've actually found to be my areas that I've interested in and I enjoy working in.
Yeah. Absolutely. And what's sort of the professional development you've done over the years? So I imagine you've been at varying levels of within your career. So junior therapist, that intermediate space, team leader roles, things like that. What's the PD pathway look like for you over the years?
Like I mentioned, my first 4 years were abroad. So it's quite funny. Like PD is something that actually was more focused on after moving to Australia. Whereas when I was abroad, if things come up, then you go study, or because it was in a hospital sector also, they had regular sessions which we were all required to attend. It was like a compulsory attendance, which was considered as ongoing learnings. But it was also dependent on which area of the hospital that we're focused on. So if I worked in a neuro setting, so any neuro trainings or conferences that were coming up, we were required to attend. Whereas if there was something that was happening up in a ortho sector, not really communicated to us,
Yeah,
or
okay.
even
Yeah. So it was sort of like integrated training, right? Like on the job
exactly.
training, and it just didn't feel like an extra because it was
It was
just given to you, I
exactly,
guess. Like it was expected, so it didn't seem like it was
exactly.
extra
Yes,
PD.
that's right. Um,
So very different to when you
yeah.
come and work in the community
Exactly,
space.
because I think that was one of the things, even with, going down the APRA registration and even kind of figuring out, oh, what do they mean by CPD? Like, is it not offered by the organizations that I work in? Like, don't they tell me what to do? So that was a bit of a
Yep.
thing. And then initially, I think my main first year here was focused on just understanding the Australian systems. Like, I think I was quite lucky in the sense of like, oh, well, I shouldn't say that because the year that I moved here was when APRA changed its foreign international OTs process
Yeah.
itself.
Okay.
So it took me a bit of time because I think the employers were also finding out, oh, okay, fine, they're not going to come with a full registration. We have to supervise them for a period of time and then get that registration completely. So it did take time to get a company that was happy to do that. But the person that I
Yep.
worked with, my supervisor, was really good. And I think within 6 months, I was able to get my full registration. But I think there was a lot of cultural shocks in terms of like, when I'm communicating with the people and it was in the community. So I'm going out, I'm talking to
Yep.
people,
Yep.
and what I'm saying makes sense to me because coming from a foreign background, but they were responding in a completely different manner.
And I suppose really different type of like client interface that you're having as well. So think hospital, acute, people, not that they want to talk to you, but they're in the headspace to listen to you and take on what you're saying. And then in the community where you've then got to navigate all of that willingness to
Yes,
participate. So if there's any bumpiness in there, that impacts on that therapeutic relationship as
exactly.
well.
Yes. I think the best example is like in my background, when I say you're taking a bath, it doesn't mean using a bathtub. You're just actually taking a shower. So,
Yeah,
like,
okay.
so I was going down the ADL pathway question. So, like, how are you taking a bath? Oh, I don't take a bath. Like, oh, why wouldn't you? Like, what's stopping you? It's like, oh, you know what? It's getting in and out is hard. I'm like, oh, okay. So, if we take a chair and put it in, would that? Oh, I couldn't get in and out of the chair, and I'm like.
How would that work? Oh my
And there was a bit of
gosh.
communication where I realized, oh, they're thinking of a bathtub. And for them to
Yeah,
understand, like
yeah.
when I'm saying a bath, I just mean even a shower.
But it's that little stuff, isn't it? I lived in America for a little while, and just little tweaks to the way that you say things, and they would just look at you and be like, "I don't know what you're saying." Like, I feel like I'm being so clear. How else can I say
Yes.
this to you?
So, yeah, the first year was purely learning actually how to work in Australia. Like, what are the systems actually that is available was what I focused
Yeah.
my PD on, to kind of, get myself oriented. Like, if I'm going out and they're asking me questions, I wanted to feel confident that, okay, what I'm saying is correct. Or, they are also actually feeling like, okay, this is a therapist who knows what they're talking about and would be able to kind of talk about in that respect. Um, Following that, it's been again based on the work that I was doing. I think always because I've gravitated more towards AT and home mods, I've kind of focused my PD on those areas. So, like any ATSA conferences or other PD availability, like, where the providers are providing sessions or things like that, is when I started going out just to kind of network and get a bit more understanding of what's actually
It's a
available.
bit of a more black and white
Yes.
area, isn't it? I guess in that PD pathway too. Like if you end up linking in with your different equipment suppliers and things like that. When you're in such a clean area like that, particularly coming in as an experienced therapist, then those types of PDs make a lot of
Yes.
sense, and you're adding to your knowledge, like just building your knowledge bank hugely, which
Yes,
is really cool.
exactly. So that's what I initially focused on too, just to kind of get myself like, okay, get back into the clinical area, because OC rehab, when I was doing it, was very step by step. Like, you go, you assess. I'm
Yep.
not doing any clinical work. I am just liaising with the other clinicians involved or the GPs
Yep.
involved, getting a med cert and getting the person back into work. There was
So very process
Yes, I
oriented.
wasn't doing any
Yep.
clinical work at that time. So for me, PDs were to kind of make sure that I'm still in that headspace. I'm still like keeping up to date with, what's happening and aware of what equipment's out there and things like that is what I kind of focused on till then I
Yep.
started into a clinical area.
How interesting. So were you in more generalist roles for most of those? Yep.
So one of the companies that I initially started in the NDIS sector was expanding into a new city, and I was one of the initial clinicians that started up over there. And I
Cool.
remember calling up people to get clients in initially, but then it's because of that we were very much a very general caseload too,
Yep.
which
Yeah.
meant my initial sessions, I remember, were still peds. And
Yeah.
mental health was still okay because in the hospital sector, I did have to visit other wards, and one of them was psychiatry, so that was still okay. But peds was not an area that I enjoyed even during placement, so that that has those were my initial sessions. So then um, we did have um, we didn't have team leads at that time. So what we had was an external mentor coming in and providing supervision because we were small at that time. And that's where I discussed, these are my struggle areas and I'd like to kind of know what PD and what would be good for me to kind of address these barriers. And we their strong point was pediatrics, so they would kind of help me set it up and kind of know, okay, fine, okay, the thought is there, but this is how you kind of enforce it with the frameworks, this is how you lead that conversations,
Yep.
and then look into, okay, maybe these could be small courses that you could do to kind of reinforce that knowledge.
It's
Yes.
a hard thing having to rescope
Yes,
completely though.
that went for almost 2 years where I was just kind of
Yep.
understanding, but then we started becoming big, and then I was able to kind of say, okay, fine, you know what, I'd like to I'd like
Reposition. Rescope me,
exactly, like
please.
I was like, you know what, I'm actually good at these areas. I can work better, and
Yep.
the clients would also have a good experience with me. I think by that time I was also having a kid myself, and honestly my energy levels weren't that high up to be working in a peds area too.
Yep.
So I was like, give me where I can actually know, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I can tell you what to do from there. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, so that went for a few more years. Till then, I got offered like leadership positions too. Initially, it was as a
Cool.
supervisor to junior clinicians, then as a team leader, and recently even as a manager too. Uh, so in those situations, then I started looking into leadership courses. The initial company that well, the company that I worked as a team leader, I I did struggle to find appropriate PD or to be able to discuss what would be good for me. So I did a lot of background searches to kind of find what it was, found the OTA one, and then did it. There was a little bit of like struggle to kind of even justify why that.
The
Yes,
supervisor one or
yes.
the yeah,
Uh,
yep.
to even struggle to kind of justify why I needed that.
But isn't that so interesting? I have lots of people who bounce to me for, I'm doing a lot more of the leadership mentoring at
Yeah,
the moment. And it's like this magical skill that we're just meant to have magically developed
yeah,
over time. But it's quite an explicit skill that you do need somebody to
exa-
teach you how do you do this. Because otherwise you just lead, supervise, manage the way you
exactly.
want. And then you find out that not everyone works in the same way
Yes,
as you, and those strategies don't work for
exactly.
everybody.
I think that's one of the things that people really don't understand. Um, and sometimes it's not everybody's cup of tea to actually manage
Absolutely.
people or even
Yep.
enjoy doing that.
Especially like when you're in that funny spot where so many therapists, we see this quite frequently, and you've sort of done this, where you move into leadership management type roles and then you go, I actually just really like
Yeah,
being an OT, like I actually just like my
yeah,
clinical work, and I'm not getting to do that because I'm having to do all this
yeah,
fluffy stuff that isn't what I was trained for, isn't what comes naturally, where there's others who love that and that's where they want to sit and they want to move away from that
yeah.
clinical space. So you've sort of moved back into the
Yes.
clinical world now. Tell us where you're up to now.
So exactly like what you said is why I moved into the clinical spot. Like I did the managing bit for a few years, and then I kind of found like the days when I was doing my clinical work was when my head was happy, my heart rate was also being tracking really well, and
Yeah.
I also wanted a little bit more flexibility on my time too. Like, uh, so that's when I was like, okay, fine, what would be the best way to kind of do this, make sure that I'm getting my clinical work, but also that flexibility. And I thought, okay, fine, maybe for the next time, I want to start off by myself. I want to kind of challenge myself in a different way. And I've been following your podcast. I follow Sarah Collison. Like, I
You're all over it. You're
like
ready.
I think in my previous organization, like I keep used to talk about Sarah a lot too, and it's like I think as
Yep.
a OT mentor, like she's someone I look up to, and I was actually quite sad that I couldn't meet up with her at her recent expo in my city.
Yeah. But interestingly, we've got another round coming around again, so we'll be everywhere again this year, so you'll be able to come and meet her face to
Yeah, so
face.
based on that, I was like, okay, fine. You know what? I want to give it a go. I want to be able to do clinical work, something that I enjoy, whereas, and also not like, I want to have that flexibility to say yes to clients or maybe no, I
Yep.
cannot service you, or sometimes even just kind of be able to switch off if needed at times too, like.
I wonder how much that's really happening, but in a different
Yes,
way, right? Where you're not having to worry about other
yes,
people. It's you and your
exactly.
clients and what you want to do and how you want to show up. And it's not like, hey, I'm not coming. You're like,
Yes,
well,
yes.
not my responsibility anymore.
Yes,
So
in that sense, like, because uh, I know how much I can perform. I know what pathways to provide support in and make sure
yeah,
there is
yeah,
that structure around where if I'm not well, things are not going to fall off, where it's going
yeah.
to be still there and I can still go back and provide that support as needed.
Absolutely. So, how long have you been working for
Uh,
yourself then? How far in
six
are we?
months. Yes.
And how are you set up? Are you sole trader
It
or
is as a
company?
company, but then I am a sole
Cool.
trader too. Like, as in, like, I'm set up as a company, but I'm the only person working for myself.
Yeah. All these terms are really confusing when you get
Yes,
started, isn't it? Like solo therapist.
suppose.
Solo therapist is probably a better one for you to think about for that. But yeah, it's confusing. And am I a sole trader? And then you get caught up with business name. But hang on, you're not a company. This all has different tax implications.
Exactly.
We actually need to know all
Yes,
these
and
things.
I think that was
Yeah.
one of the big major things. Like when I say I've been working for myself for 6 months, I would say the first almost 2 months were kind of understanding all of that. And, you know,
Yeah.
it's not easy. Like I think like
No.
I would say I was quite lucky to kind of be in a management position before starting out because
Yeah. to have eyes on those bits and
Exactly.
pieces. But there still is so much, like I think about this all the time, where you know those things, but you don't know
Exactly.
those
Yes.
things. Like, it's different playing with other people's money to
Ex-
than your own money. And when you come out and go, oh, I understand now where that was coming from, but I didn't see it in. I remember for me, I used to go, oh, well, I've worked enough, so I've covered my salary. And I didn't think
all.
about
Yes.
admin, staff costs, the overheads of the business, like all those other things, because I only know what I know and you just don't know what you don't know. Have you done my sensational starting private practice
No,
workshop?
I didn't. I think the one I did was through OTA. One, yes,
Oh, yeah, cool. What did that sort of cover
yes.
through all those
So
things?
that was
Awesome.
my starting
Yeah,
point too. So then the very first
great.
thing that I did was like, there's a lot. I think I need an accountant to kind of get my head. Like, it's not something
Yeah,
that
fantastic.
my head could understand. So
Yep.
I actually met with my accountant, who's the one who set up
Fab.
everything and told me, okay, fine. You know what? If you need to be able to, because he's also my personal accountant, he's like, well, if you need your
Great.
expenses to go, you need to earn so much. So for you need to earn so much, you need to
Good.
do
Yeah,
this.
amazing.
And then he's like, okay, what all
Yep.
are you planning to do? And did that planning with me.
That's fantastic. That's very
Yeah.
unusual. So, what a lovely connection. My accountant, I think, did similar, but a lot of people engage their accountant later because it's so easy to set up as a sole trader without having that. So, they don't look for that support from their
Yeah.
accountant. So, that's really lovely that you had that hands around support to help think through billables, time, all of those things, because otherwise it can be quite tricky coming out
Yes.
and going, oh, well, I'll just do like 2 clients. Oh, I can't make any money. I don't know
Yes.
what's happening.
Engaged with him way before even starting to even kind of because I
Like
think
headspace.
it
Yeah.
was all these. I think maybe in your podcast or maybe in few of the conversations that's been happening around. I think it was always
Yep.
brought up like, "Hey, I'm thinking of starting. What are things that people are looking to get?" And it was always there, like
Yep.
link up with these people, get to know what is there. So way
Good.
way
So
before
good.
I started, I was like, okay, let me
Yep.
go talk to him, kind of figure out what's actually needed from my side.
And did that conversation look a bit like them talking about pros and cons of company
Yes,
versus sole trader from the
yes,
start? Because again, a lot of people miss that step and then they've got to go back and change it. So that's really cool that they were, and particularly the scope that you're working with as well. So you've got a little bit more
yes,
protections and things
exactly.
like that set up.
That's what they started off with. They were like, okay,
Yep.
what are you
Cool.
thinking? And I was like, see, it's just going to be me. And I think if it's just going to be me, it's supposed to be a sole trader. He's like, sure, but then you're
Yeah.
leaving
Yeah.
all your assets into this thing.
Yep. Yep. And in this scope, like the work that you're doing, right, where it's like, go and sue your therapist, go back and challenge them. So you sort of do want to have a bit more protection in that
Yes.
space. What were you thinking in terms of the clinical scope that you were coming out to
So
work in?
I was still playing towards my strengths, and even when I was when I'm was and I'm still having conversations with support coordinators or anybody, I do tell them like
Yep.
this is what I am experienced in. You want to have like a good result in this? Sure, I can do that.
Yep.
Again,
Great.
a lot of peace is again what was coming through, and I always tell
Yep.
them like I have had those conversations with parents. I'm like, see, do I have the knowledge and the skills to provide that support? Sure, yes, but am I going to be the best?
Do I want to? No, I don't.
Exactly. I was like, am I the best fit? I wouldn't say that because based, like, they would have provided me a history and everything. And I'm like, based on that, I can tell you maybe these are the things that I might need to do with. And sometimes it's going to be hard because that's not my area of strength, which means that rapport building might take up longer than if you were to go somewhere else. And, there have been instances where some people got upset because they're like, why did you waste our time in saying that? Like, not upset at me per se, like, oh, then why did the support coordinator give us your details? Like, if this is.
Agreed. I wondered that as well. I thought I made that very clear. But it sounds like you're being very clear. I was talking about this in Art of Peds last week where, that clarity and leaning in and having those hard conversations from the start means that the hard conversations later are much easier. Like, if I've told you I think this might be hard and it may or may not be beneficial and you're making a choice, then we've already had that hard conversation for when it happens further down the track, and I have to say we've hit a wall, and now I need to cross refer out, or I need to think about doing something different. And this is why you're working for yourself, right? So you don't have to work with clients that you don't feel comfortable with or that you can't do
Yes,
work
and
with.
to be fair, I really think I'm comfortable having those conversations because I did that in my previous roles in different varying capacity.
Yeah.
Because I think
Yeah.
if I
Yeah.
didn't have that experience, like I'm a person who
Yeah.
would keep quiet and go through and go like, okay, fine, no matter what happens, I'll work.
I'll figure it
Exactly,
out.
like I'll go do.
I can't hurt your feelings.
I'll
Come,
do that.
please. I'll figure
Yes,
this
I'll
all
go.
out.
I can see myself going and doing, reading up, training, all of that, just to kind of know how to do that. And
Yeah.
that's not why I started that. Like I wanted to have some family
Absolutely.
time too. So, which is why.
100%. But also how nice, because you've got your values and your goals, and you know sometimes it's like that stepping stone of like, I can say no if I want to. It's my choice whether I say that. That's all we're
Yes.
looking for in that. Sometimes when we're beautiful people pleasers, sometimes that's also tricky, and we're like, I could say no, but I'm going to say yes because I can help you. How are they referring to you? So obviously you've reached out support coordinators, you've got your LinkedIn profile. Have you got a website set
Yes.
up, or how are people
It
finding
is
you?
through a website. I mean, the referrals are through the website, but to be fair, I'd say most of the referrals that have come through has been word of mouth. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
the links,
And then just like repeat
yes,
referrals through your
exactly.
support
Or
coordinators
like,
and stuff. Yeah.
that support coordinator has contacted somebody else and said, oh, well, this person,
Cool.
you can go that. Like, um,
Yeah.
well, I haven't actually put in a lot of money for advertising yet, just because I'm
Yeah.
still starting
Yeah.
up. And
Haven't needed to.
yeah,
Yeah.
like, the cost of it was also a factor, like, to be
Yeah.
able to get the hits that you need, and the daily cost was too much,
Yeah.
which at this time is not something that I can take on
Not
board.
needed.
And
Was that what, through like a boosted ad or a like social media
yes,
ad or something?
exactly. And
Yeah. Yeah. Are you full? You still building? Like how full are we trying to get? How many days? How many hours?
yes,
What do you and your
I'm
accountant
actually
figure out? What are we
part-time
aiming
right
for?
now. So because I'm also starting out, I kind of wanted to make sure, like, hey, the bills are still getting paid, so I need to have something
Yeah.
background as I'm
Yeah.
working on
Yeah.
to kind of see, okay, fine, how am I tracking? How am I going out and things like that before I kind of
Yeah.
go completely off and then kind of do that. And because of that, my timing is quite limited, but at the same time, there is
Yeah.
flexibility in my other job where I can kind of do it in other
Do what
times
you need
too.
to. Okay.
So,
Yeah. So are you building to the moment
yes,
3 days? Is that
exactly.
sort of the intention? And then big picture, what did the accountant and you decide is sustainable? Like how many billable hours a
Well,
week?
he gives me a dollar amount, and he's like, this is what.
Get to this however you'd like to.
Exactly. So
What was his aim? What was he
he was
thinking?
like, if you can get up to 3K per week, I think you should be fine. Uh, and I was like, okay, 3K sounds a lot,
Yeah.
but then if when I was
Yeah.
actually doing the work, I'm almost hitting half
Yeah.
of it, like even on a
Oh,
part-time basis. And then
100%.
I was like, okay, fine. So then, but also I told him this is only till this financial year. I'd like to go full
Yeah. And
time
then you have more space.
from next
Yeah.
financial year, because at this point, another thing that I have noticed is, like, when I am getting more requests come in, it's also they're asking for time frames, and like, what my wait list is
Yeah.
looking
Okay.
at. I
Yeah.
don't know if this is a trend, but I kind of felt like in my previous organizations, like approximately 6 to 8 weeks was the norm for an occupational therapy this thing. But if I say even like 6 weeks, because like with the limited hours and the work that I'm doing, it does come up to
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
People go kind of off.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You'll lose them. Yeah. I'd say probably 4 to 6 rather than
yeah,
6 to 8. Eight's probably pushing it. It would depend on the complexity, obviously, of what
yeah.
it was. But for functionals and things like that, probably 2 to 4 would be more benchmarked as to where things are sitting. So that probably speaks to calendar management and how we bring people in, which I could see this is where a lot of people running this type of caseload find it really overwhelming, essentially, especially when they've got limited time. I was just thinking, like, so that's 15 billable hours a week to hit your initial target. So that's very manageable. It's not when you're only doing 3 days a week.
I have to say, I try to limit as much admin time on the weekends over there. In fact, I'm actually even thinking that I might get a virtual assistant to kind of help with it too, because I'm able to get the work done, but sometimes there are late nights to finish up with the admin bit and things like that.
Is that primarily service agreements and
billing,
or what are you finding? Because you're using SPLOs, which is pretty straightforward and moving. I don't know that you're making enough money at the moment that you could fund the VA without like taking a pretty decent hit. If we think about that target. But again, I've got a workshop about getting the admin support you need that might be worthwhile having a look at, because it has like a time audit that'll help you to go through and figure out like, it is taking time, but it's like an hour, and is that worthwhile? And then you value cost that. So you go, would I prefer to spend time with my family? Yes, bring in a VA. Or no, I want to build up a little bit more of a funnel and money, then I might look at that a little bit later. But I wonder, from the sounds of it, if you're giving yourself such a large time frame to get things done, that means your caseload is a lot bigger than probably what it needs to be at baseline, right? So if you're not smashing through things really quickly and filling your billables up, say you were onboarded a new client and you get their thing done within 3 weeks, the next person doesn't onboard until that 3-week period. So I would imagine you've got lots of moving parts, and that's why it's taking a very long time. Plus, it sounds like you've picked up a bit of a therapy caseload as well as your one-off assessments and recommendations too. So what's your split look like when you're doing your week?
It would be, currently I would say I only have 2, assessment and report. The others are ongoing therapy over there.
So it's pretty heavy therapy pathway then. Okay. And have you got that scattered across those 3 days, or have you got
No, it is scattered across the 3 days, just because I also keep it, it's set timings so that they know it's this day, this time. But then obviously when there are equipments or things like that, there's a little bit of ad hoc things that's coming up, because trials.
So you need space for that.
Just leaving a bit of space for that too. The therapy is more skills development and things like that, and that is.
And are you getting referrals for that? Like, are those referrals still coming in? Mostly peds or in the adult space?
I've been, touch wood, been able to get the adolescents and adults. I would say yes, my caseload is adults at this point. Yes, so touch wood. I'd like for that to continue in that sense too.
Great. Okay, so potentially, and I think you've heard me talk about this on the pod before, but I think you probably have to think about that one-off pathway versus ongoing intervention pathway, because the people who are coming and saying a 6 to 8 week turnaround for those reports are those one-off people. They're not, but you're actually setting yourself up more for a therapy service provision, which is probably a safer option with all the changes coming in for NDIS. Like, if functionals are going, there's no point setting up a massive pathway for that. So you might be better off targeting more heavy regular intervention. Downside of that, you lose all flexibility and you just have pretty heavy days. But in saying that, that's 15 clients. So it's not impossible, and you could get to that relatively easily. And then even if you drop that other role, you've already met your target. Exactly. And you've got 2 full days available to do with whatever you want. But that probably for right now, maybe we don't accept so many of those assessment referrals. We try and build up for actual therapy referrals and get your caseload full.
That actually makes more sense, actually, because that is where I am, because part of the way that I do functionals is like I'd like to observe them in different settings, different timings.
Yeah, and you don't have space to do that.
And so then, it gets keep pushed back, because it's like, okay, I'm not available this day. Can we do it?
Yeah. And like your equipment stuff, you could fit more easily around the other stuff. Like, that's a lot more flexible, and you can do that a lot easier. So I think that's probably, and then equipment you would just do for your
Yes.
internal clients rather than as one-off things at this point. When you pick up those extra days, you could then diversify back out and pick up that
Yeah.
stream again. But you've just got such limited time. So no wonder you're like, that's why when you say admin's overwhelming when you have a heavy
Yeah.
therapy caseload, because you do all your notes, and then you've got to go and invoice everyone. You've got to do, like, there is a heavy amount of admin that goes with it compared to when you're doing more of your back
Yes.
end work. You've got space to invoice as you're going and things like that. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Tricky. Are you doing full days or
No,
school
full
hours?
days, just because
Yeah.
for my flexibility too, I have found that there are certain days that I cannot do school timings too. So then I can do like a earlier or like even an evening kind of a thing too. And
Yeah.
I've been lucky that some people actually prefer that too. So then it kind of works with the sessions. But then, so because of that, it's not also 9 to 5 in that sense too. So because, but then it's not every week too, because some weeks it's usually,
And it's relatively
Yes.
scheduled, so you know when
Yeah.
you've got it. And like all of that's fine, right? It's similar to what we were saying before. You can be as flexible as you want, but you've got control
Exactly,
over it.
yes.
So I can offer one Tuesday night session, and that is what is offered. It's at this time. Do you use that paper timetable that I've talked about before, or how are you managing your
So
regular
I
schedules?
am a paper-based person, but then I think just because over the past few years I've been so used to using Outlook, I've gotten used to that. So
Yeah.
that's where I kind of put every little bit of things to kind of do. And,
Are you doing that, doubling it in
no,
Splows,
so
or is it talking
Splows
to
actually
Splows?
talks to Outlook. Outlook doesn't talk to
Cool.
Splows.
Yeah, so you just- that's it.
So
Okay.
anything I put on Splows comes up automatically over to my Outlook, and then Outlook is where I would keep time frames for this or that and things like that. And
Yep,
yeah,
and do your to-do list and all that sort of stuff. So what about thinking your master timetable? How do you know if you've got capacity then? Because that's the only challenge when you run in Splows or within your
Yeah.
software. That, so for example, like my week this week was an odd week. It's not my normal sessions. Next week we go back to normal. And then I've got these random spots. But if I put someone into that random spot in 2 weeks' time, that person's actually starting, and I forgot because I didn't mark it out in that. So that's where that master timetable could be helpful. I just wonder, something like that, just while you're in this real heavy recalibration space, would be good to then go, I want to condense everything. I'm trying to do this in my business at the moment. I want to condense everything into work hours, which means I need to drop a little bit of this time that I've allocated for other people. So I get that. For me, it's social media. I'm like, well, I don't want to do that outside of work hours. So let's actually allocate myself some time in that master timetable. But if I didn't do that on my master one and then into my Splows Galaxy calendar, I'd just book over it. I just, you need something, cancel, I'll do that. So that master, I think having a look at that would be helpful. And then flick it into Splows. That's just like the planning, that's your baseline. Then your regular calendar, your actual week to week is what is Splows Outlook. But your big picture one where you go, do I have capacity for a new client? That's when you're looking
Yes,
in there.
I think that would be good, because I think a lot of the time when those calls come in, or like when there's a request or even via email for something, it's usually I do it in my head, and then there's like, okay, how do I kind of calculate
Yeah,
that?
it's a lot.
So yes, I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that would be good to kind of go back and get that.
Yeah, especially if you're going more to a therapy provision service where they're going to go into those regular times. Like you said, you're already doing block sessions. Like, you're doing it anyway, so why not just take the cognitive load out of your brain and put it in front of you to actually go, do I have capacity for this? Oh, I'll have to. Because it's so helpful. I was chatting to someone yesterday about booking some stuff in for myself. I'm like, oh, this is just so overwhelming because I have a mixture of my regular stuff now and then random stuff, and I can't remember where all the random things live. Like,
No, exactly.
I don't know.
That is, I would say, is what's actually happening. There's a lot of small bits and pieces, which it's usually when I'm on the road or like, when I'm just doing something like, oh, this, and then I have to run back and then update and go kind of a thing. So yes.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And I wonder, I find as well, I've currently got a lot of brain dumping. I've got so many projects on the run at the moment, plus the kids. We were just talking before we came in about our children. Currently, my kids are home. I'm like, oh, I've got to get you signed up for this and that and this. And then at work, I've got to do this and blah, 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 blah. Like, it melds so hard together in this role compared to, like, the other role, it was the same, right? But now it's like it's all intertwined because it only impacts you. So there's not that external pressure of like, I've got to fix it, or I'll shuffle this to make my life easier, because we don't prioritize ourselves, where you would have done that for a staff member.
Exactly. That's actually a good point, and I think, yes, that's another bit of the cognitive load too, because it's a start of a new year. And yes, I am doing that in the background, but I don't think, like, you know, sometimes the thought comes when I'm doing my work. And, you know, they're also open during business hours. Not so, that's actually true.
It's highly annoying. And, like, you're working full-time hours, essentially. So you don't have your free time. You know, like, I've got to ring this person to book in for my private life. Oh, hang on, I don't have that time allocated. So, again, looking at that big picture timetable might be helpful to give yourself a little pocket of time for that. Like, I'd nearly wonder for you, if we looked at building 5 days of work and 1 day that didn't have anything scheduled. So in those 6 days that you've got available across a fortnight, you've got 5 days for regular appointments. The 6th is flexible. You could use it however. You just know you're not to book over it.
I think this is not planned, but what I've just found is sometimes it gets too much, where then I just kind of consciously not give an appointment to anybody on a particular day, but it's not conscious, and it's kind of like reactive.
And it's not, can't go, it's coming, we're nearly there, I can push through.
It's very reactive, I would say, like it's not planned or anything. So yes, I think that would also be good for me to kind of just know that, okay, fine, this is going to be that one day.
And you can decide. So for some people, I was chatting to someone about this the other day, it depends on the way you structure your week as to how and when that time's most effective. So for some people, having, say, your Monday off is really effective. Depends how well you separate home and life for that. But then they check their emails, they get their head sorted, they catch up on things. But for others, they can't start like they find it too tricky, where if it's at the end of their working week, then it's like, cool, I'm in the headspace, I can get this stuff done. Others, we put it in the middle. Often for neurodivergent therapists, we'll place it in the middle because it gives you like that brain break. But for me, I hated that. Like, I would hate having that space to then have to turn on again the next day. So you just have to think, they talk about this as your energy use, like how best your energy flow works. And now you get to decide and shove people where they need to go.
I don't think it was, again, a conscious decision. I just kind of found, for me, Wednesdays worked for that. So unconsciously, it just happened, like maybe every month or something like that. I'd be like, okay, fine, it's getting too much, I need a day. When's a good day? Wednesday's a good day. And then put it up over there. And I don't know, but I kind of find, like, you know, when that's done, I'm okay for Thursday and Friday. And then again, it's like, oh, there's 2 more days of break coming through, and then restart.
And the thing, I guess, thinking if you're doing other work at the moment as well, I would potentially even go just having the last day before you're going into the other role is your catch-up day, so you can close out that work and then go into the other work. So, yeah, it can be hard. How are you getting referrals? Because this is the other bit that can be tricky. Are you getting phone calls, or are they mostly emails or like website referrals?
Usually it's through a phone call or like an email to like, you know,
so it is still a fair bit of back and forth.
Yes. And it's usually once, I also kind of prefer having a phone conversation before they put in a referral, just because, like, you know, those conversations of, am I the best therapist to be supporting you, before you put in a referral, and then I go like,
like, you probably could set up that referral on your website, though, and have more specific questions. Like, are you under 17? No option to continue with the referral.
That
like, there could be some ways that you could screen pretty decently, just because, again, because you're getting fuller, you actually don't have time to ring all these people. And then you've got phone tag happening, and then you're wasting time on referrals that are not appropriate, where if the referral comes through, you've screened it, that phone call could, you've
Yes.
already had, you already know that they need to be flicked out rather than accidentally doing a free therapy
Yes,
session on
that's
the
actually true. And yes, the referral form does allow for that conditioning bit. So I'll just have to go and modify that a bit over there. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so then your voicemail is, if you want to make a referral, please do this on the website. We will be in touch, because you are nearly at capacity as well. So we used to do this, this is why you're thinking about admin, right? But I used to pay for our admin to tell people they were 80th on the wait list. That is an unnecessary use of admin time, our time, because I'm not going to see you for a number of years. You're not going to get picked up. So if they just went manually onto the wait list, I didn't have any time engaged with them at that point, then you're not over indebted to them either, because that would be the other bit. If I took the phone, I'm like, come, I'll jump you up the wait list because I'm now invested. But the more we take ourselves out of it, and you're building your name by just being a really great therapist, you get the right referrals, particularly now that it's you, right? So your website is showing your experience and who you are and what the ideal type of referral is. It's all making sense for the person who you're seeking.
That's actually quite true. Even when you said the voicemail bit, it just talks about, leave a message, but, I could just put the...
And I'll get back to you. Yay!
Yep, all these little points now.
Yeah, and we know it all, but it's just getting those things into play. But the other bit on the phone call that I find, especially again, your chockers. So your voicemail nearly needs to say, thanks for calling, we're in session most of the time. The best way to get in touch with me is via email, because phone, it's so hard to get in, and you're only working part-time. So quite a few of my colleagues have really good email bounce backs that come up on the days that they're not working in the business. So it's really clear, this business only works Monday to Wednesday, your email will be returned at this time period, blah, blah. So you're pushing it all to that. So because you don't need to take many phone calls, you don't want to be involved in the intensity of the phone call, because the work that we do isn't typically highly reactive in that way.
I think I've done the email bit, on the days that I'm not there, I do, it's there.
Yep.
But yes, the voicemail bit is something that's a really good, because when you say that's actually would kind of cut down a lot of the work that I do.
Totally. Yep. And again, this is why you're pushing and going, admin's the thing that will help you with this. But it won't, because your processes aren't clear enough yet. So you would just have an admin that you have to tell every step of everything that needs to happen. Until your processes are clearer, then they can step in and take that weight off you. So I think thinking about that admin's a great idea, but maybe give yourself another month or 2 months to really solidify how your processes work, and then wonder where best and how they would
That's
fit.
actually quite true, because when I was thinking also for having a VA, that was one of the things, because I would be I'll need to kind of tell them what my processes are and have to create that. And that's something that, I haven't done. So,
Totally. And a lot of people find them amazing and super helpful. I just don't think you have the time to... I'm currently onboarding a VA at the moment. She's amazing. And I had one previously, but even that onboarding period is so much time, and I've accidentally onboarded while I'm super busy. So I'm hope you're okay. I've actually got to go into session. I've actually got podcast recordings booked, all all of that, and you don't have that time either. So again, it could be, if you're thinking about it, that might be a school holiday thing. So you pause and take a week of minimal clients, and that's when you think about onboarding someone, because you'll have the headspace to do it.
That actually makes a lot more sense, yes. Because that was in the back of my head, kind of thinking, where do I fit that time?
How are we going to pop that in? What are you doing for school holidays? Are you seeing clients? Are you taking time off? What are you doing? Because I don't know, you can't see, but in my background over here, I've got one of those massive yearly perpetual timetables. Are you thinking, because you've got a child, are you planning on taking school holidays off or working full? What are you hoping to do in this business of yours where you get to pick and choose?
My aim is to have at least 1 week off.
Cool.
Because that's also one of the reasons that I wanted that flexibility to be able to, have some time where, I can spend. And 2 weeks, I know I would get frustrated. That's a lot for me too. So
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
week is
Yeah.
good where we can plan
Cool.
something, do something, and the next week,
Yep.
like, even, yeah.
Can do whatever. A bit more
So that's
flexy.
what
Yep.
I think.
Yeah. So not regular caseload as much. What about your January Christmas holidays? What
This
did you do
time
this time, and
round,
what are you
like, I
thinking?
did see clients up till the week before Christmas, but then
Yep.
during that period itself, I did tell everybody, guys, I'm going to be taking time off. I'm only coming back the week of the 12th of Jan.
Oh, that's still pretty decent. So only like 2 or
Exactly.
3
So I was,
weeks. I wonder, thinking about that
yeah,
timetable scheduling thing, I nearly think you should look at putting that up, having that like in front of your home office or somewhere really clear. Pick the weeks that you're having off for the school holidays. So you've got your dates that you're working and not working
yeah,
really clear. Then go think about your
yeah,
PDs. So like we've got the conference coming up this year. That might be a really cool thing. We've got the ATSs and things like that. Then go and book those all out and then
with
meld
it.
your master timetable in around
Yes,
that stuff. So that should give you a way better overview of everything. Then you've got your clarity around, okay, if I'm picking up July, say, and doing these full time, then I need to be pushing hard for new clients, think
yeah,
start of June. Like I want to be saying and trying to build that up. But all of that sets you up very effectively. And then thinking about your Christmas holiday period, the only other bit would just be, again, planning for that
yes,
shutdown time. So saving
yeah,
enough money for that. I think so. The other bit that I think for us who are forever learners, and one thing I've been thinking about this year is being intentional about how much money and time I'll
yes,
spend on PD. Because I'm just like, I'll go to that, I'll do that, whatever. I want to learn. Like, half of them I don't need to learn it for me. It's so I can share
yeah,
it with other people. But this year I'm like, oh, I probably should track like how much I've been spending on those things and how much does it cost me if I go to say ATSA and I take 2 days off. How much does that cost me? Is the
yeah,
value actually worth it? Rather, or again, does it meet my value of like my professional engagement in those other areas? So again, none of this is a hard, fast no, don't do it. It's a have I made a
yeah,
conscious decision? Understand the impacts of my choices before I just go to all the fun things that I want to go to, which you're all over, but it's just something when you first roll into your own business, just like freedom. I can do whatever
yeah.
I want. Oh crap, it's cost me $10,000. I did not think about that
Yes,
part of
actually,
it.
that's a good point because while my accountant did tell me this is how much you can spend on PD, I haven't actually looked how much I have spent so far.
Yeah, yep, yep. And he wouldn't necessarily be accounting for the lost time to
Yes,
go to those
exactly.
PDs. So that's
Yes,
the other bit to. It's scary when you think about it. It's helpful for it just to be visible or just in the back of your mind to go, yep, cool, it costs me money, but it's worth it. But I don't get to the end of the year and be surprised when, oh, it's actually a bit hard to pay for
exactly.
shutdown time because I spent all my money
Yes.
on PD this year. Now, that actually does bring us to, I'm having such a great conversation with you. We could just keep talking all day. Now, we do tend to wrap this session up with a bit of a note to self. So I wonder, you've had some really beautiful big transitions in your professional life, but we might go back to note to self for starting in this private work that you're doing by yourself now. What might be something that you'd tell yourself sort of 6 months ago when it was all getting started?
Oh, I would say take help because I think the accountant bit, because everywhere I was told, meet with your accountant. So I did that.
Yeah.
But then
Yeah.
everything else, I did it on my own. Like, okay, what do I have to do for my NDIS, like, worker screening, or what am I supposed, how does it transition with my professional indemnity, like, all of those things. I did a lot of training.
Yeah.
Whereas if I had, I think, like, after, if I could
Someone.
just
Yeah.
get that help,
Yeah.
like, from somebody else, because 3 months down, like, I'm talking to other people and they're like, oh, this is what you have
Yeah.
to do, or did yes,
Should have done that.
and it was
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
easy because
Yeah.
otherwise I went down. It took me like 3-4 hours to get that information.
It's actually wild, isn't it? Like I reflect the same thing because I didn't get mentoring for many years in and tried to get it in different ways. I think about the time I wasted, like for example, I do with people a Alyce setup. I'm like, I have probably spent hundreds of hours teaching myself how to use Alyce. But if I'd watched somebody else and knew what I needed to learn, that would have cut out all, and that would have been worth that amount of money. But at that point I was too much of a tight ass, so I would have found that too hard. But I think thinking about that is when we start looking at time versus value, it is 9 times out of 10 more beneficial to get the help of somebody that will speed it all up. I know in my soul therapist sessions, it might just literally be, so I had one yesterday, tell me about how I do Medicare. I'm like, all right, boom, 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 boom. Imagine the hours you would spend trying to figure that out for yourself. Like, and you can ask, say, you know, we use our groups, you ask in there and you get 10,000 different answers. You're like, well, I'm no better off than where I was before, aside from going, lots of people do this
Exactly.
differently.
And that was one of the things, like, just to kind of talk to someone who's gone through that process, or even just kind of tell me, like, this is who you can go and talk to get that information. That was what would have helped me a lot, because there's a lot of, it's not easy, like, access, going down the websites, even though they're government websites, it's not easy, because you do one, they're like, but you have to go here.
Well, it's like everything, right? You don't know what you don't know. So you might read it in a different way and then just move forward, rather than knowing that that's not how it's intended to be understood. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a lovely conversation, and I'm wishing you all the best for your future.
Thank you. Talk soon.
The OT Coaching Confidential podcast exists to support occupational therapists to think clearly, feel less alone, and take meaningful steps in their work. If this conversation resonated for you, take a moment to notice what stood out. Have a think about the takeaways from this session and what you might be able to apply in your own personal or professional practice. If you'd like to keep the conversation going, head on over to the otcoach.au. Inside here, you'll find resources, workshops, trainings, lots of different things, including some new freebies that we've just set up. I've also got the OT Coach Academy, where we have the Pediatric Hub, as well as a brand new Business Owners Hub, and this will be for group practice owners to come together and share and learn. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode. Please note that the information shared in this podcast is general in nature and is not intended to replace individualized advice.